we're going to go ahead and get started.
Yeah, I think so. Someone wants Slack for me for Nick.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks for agreeing there.
Nick, calling you out.
All right, so I'm Nate. This is Brandon. We're two bros going to talk about bro tonight. So a bunch of bros and broettes. So Brandon's with principal. I'm with the city for another tomorrow. I'm going on to another place. So what I'm talking about tonight, what Brandon's going to talk about tonight, doesn't necessarily reflect what our companies represent, believe, etc. So what is BRO? So BRO actually stands for Big Brother. I don't think it's as fun, but whatever. So BRO is actually a network programming language. It's not really, it wasn't ever initially designed to be an IDS. So there's a lot of universities, colleges out here that are using this for a lot of other things. So you'll hear us refer to the BRO language. There's a lot of other context around that besides just IDS, just know that. So Vern Paxson, the original developer, started in 1996. BRO has kind of evolved into its BRO IDS, as you see it, is actually a set of tools. It's not just a single entity, there's multiple packages. So it's capable of running in a cluster, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So some of the other components just wanted to bring up, there's BRO CTL for the cluster and scaling, Broccoli, and BRO Ox, which will show some of those commands. So just a couple BRO steps you guys need to know about before we dive in. So BRO, the stuff that you're going to see, if you see NetFlow, you're going to recognize some of this. So think of BRO as kind of the intermediary between a full PCAP and NetFlow. It's going to give you information that you're kind of in between. So if you don't have the space to do full PCAPs all the time, but you still need to keep that data retention to go back in time and still be able to look up information and provide context, BRO is your tool. So some of the important things to remember. So BRO is neutral. It doesn't care about the traffic. It's not like an IDS where you go in and say, hey, this is a bad thing. You can configure BRO that way, but it's really just designed as a processing engine. So the stuff that you load into it, it's up to you. It's not going to come out of the box and tell you about all the bad things out there. You're going to have to do a little bit of configuration to do that. So the other concept that you'll want to understand with BRO is that it uses the concept of stream analysis. So everyone looking through a PCAP, you have a source IP, a destination IP. So BRO doesn't call it that. It's an originator and a destination. So it's able to kind of keep track of the whole TCP conversation, that entire stream of data. You know, because you might have a conversation that's initiated from one person to another, but it's really the same piece of traffic. So, all right. So why do we like BRO? So there's two really general use cases. So one is that this can be an analyst tool. So this isn't necessarily something that you have to set up on your network and capture traffic with it. So you can take a PCAP and load it into BRO and generate output and do this at the analyst level without actually setting up a server or any capture components on the network. So the second scenario obviously is the TAP IDS. So it works very similar. You can put BRO in line and capture, do your full packet capture at that level. Modular scripts. So if you can manage to cobble together a script, it's kind of Perl-esque for those who are curious. You can do amazing things with BROs. Structured output. Output files that we'll show you here as we roll through the demos are tab delimited, so they're very easy to parse. You can get them into almost any data system. We'll have a quick demo of some of the stuff that we've loaded up into Elk Stack. Fully scalable, so I've heard people that are running this doing full capture at like 40 gigs, no problem. So definitely capable of handling any traffic that you throw at it. Extensible. So we'll dig into a little bit tonight. I'll give you guys a demo. You can plug this into a lot of threat intel stuff out there for free. And then it's got that scripting engine, right? So you program an event that you want to actually perform an action. Sky's the limit. So you want it to drop traffic, you want it to send an alert, you want it to modify traffic. If you can script it, then you can do it. So.
Yeah, I just threw in that last bullet. So BRO is kind of like our secret weapon at Capture the Packet. Tom Pohl and I will talk about that a little bit later, but BRO is really helpful in winning or in coming into a place with that. Question.
So you can modify traffic. It's an IPS as well, or it's inline.
No.
So BRO won't modify the traffic. But because you can script an action to happen after an event occurs, you can send it off to something that can modify the traffic. So it's not going to directly modify the traffic, but you can create a workflow to easily do that.
So let's say like a really good example of that is shunning on a firewall, right? So if I detect a series of events within Bro and let's say a connection per second limit, right? A single source IP has exceeded 10 sessions per second to a single host. With that, so that would be a Bro script that would detect that. And then I would add an action to that would more or less say, and go do this whenever this event is detected.
Okay, so you can't modify the traffic across the
Yeah, it's not an inline solution by any stretch of the means.
But you can affect traffic depending on,
Yeah, kind of that out of band reaction, right?
Yep. All right. So yeah, great diagram. So same place that you would put your IDS, your regular packet capture, or again on your analyst machine. We'll show you some of the power behind the CLI here in just a moment. So, but yeah, if you can, you plug it in exactly where you would in pretty much any other network appliance. Clusters.
Sweet, yeah, so I'll talk about this. So we talked about scalability and clustering and how we can exceed, well beyond 10 gigabits per second wire speed with Bro. And so the way that it works is you have a front end, which, does this have a little laser thing? Maybe. So you've got this, so you've got a front end, and the front end effectively does load balancing of the packets for you. So if you are connected here to a tap, then you're going to need to, and you have more than 10 gigabit per second, then you're going to need to load balance that out to multiple servers. So something like Gigamon or Arista or any of the packet brokers that exist out there are great tools for that. You can also run it though on a single instance, a single server, and then your front end becomes a piece of software or maybe hardware load balancing on your NIC itself. And so the front end is really just that packet distribution so that we can scale it out to more than one instance of Bro. And then you've got workers. So in a multi-server environment, you can have multiple workers working on multiple servers. In a single server environment, it's multiple instances of Bro running on a single server. So all of the workers send their logs to the manager. So even in a cluster environment where I might have 10 different servers, all of those logs come to a central place. So it's very easy to gather it from the central location, forward it on, analyze it, whatever you need to do once that it's in the central place. The proxy actually acts as a mechanism to keep state amongst the workers. So if one worker sees a new connection be established, it's going to send that state notification of that new connection being established to the proxy, and then to all the other workers will pick up that event as well. So that's kind of how it scales out. When you deal with the scaled out solution like this, again, multiple instances on one server or multiple instances on multiple servers, you're going to use Bro CTL, Bro control. And so most of the configuration is within the Bro CTL config file where your log rotation occurs, like where the directory to store all those in the master is. And then your nodes actually define out your workers. So you'll say, hey, this IP address, this server is running 8 nodes, and here's their node config, etc. So that's kind of the quick config. I don't know how to work that.
All right. So Bro install options available for Sense, Debian-based distributions. So from source was actually easier than some of the packages, just due to some of the you don't get all the plugins if you install it directly from a package. So I would recommend building it from source. Pretty easy. I did it in 15 minutes, and I'm terrible. So
compiling's a little slow. Like when it says 15 minutes, it's like 15 minutes compile time. It takes a long time to compile it.
There's some Docker containers out there available. There were some that were no state included, so your mileage may vary. And then, of course, if you're familiar with Security Engine, Bro is one of the core tool sets on that. So, all right, so running Bro. So again, once everyone understand that it's not just a packet capture tool. We can take a PCAP and feed it to Bro. So from the command line, you can go ahead and feed it a PCAP, and it's going to generate Bro logs. So you see there an example of those below. So depending on the PCAP that you ingest, you'll get different types of logs. So there's I think actually 15 by default. There's a lot of pre-configured stuff that it can output. So you can see here, for example, X509. So we have certs, email, SSL, connection logs. So and the files, which we'll talk about in a bit. So and then scripts. So again, so that was the you see we're running Bro. We're ingesting a file. we're just running the default bro config. So we can leverage that and actually tell bro to run a script that we've written to parse that file in a different way and do events such as extract files in PCAP automatically. So very, very powerful scripting engine. So some sample use cases, so HTTP logging. We'll dig into some of the log files here and show you guys a little bit more of the data that you can collect. Software inventory, you can easily capture log user agents, pull that information out and parse it. DNS logging, one of the probably most used features of Bro. File extraction, we're going to show you guys a couple really cool workflows that you can do for files. Phishing detection, we'll be talking a little bit about that. And then the threat intel integration, which I'll show you guys, which is really cool. So, just want to talk real quick about the command line tools. So, it's Unix command line. So if you're familiar with your regular oxide grep, it's all text, it's all parsable, so it's very easy to work with. There's a special tool called BroCut, which you can easily use to manipulate, basically pull out specific columns without having to do too much magic with awk. So, and again, tab delimited. So, all right. So CLI usage. This is going to be fun.
Do you want me to hold it for you? Your third arm.
All right, let's see. All right. Apologize for the small font. Let me tweak that real quick. That's a little better. All right.
Is that okay? No, James says no. There's one honest guy in the crowd.
Probably have some screen wrapping.
Yeah, it's okay.
Right.
So just keep in mind that these logs, they're tab delimited, and you're going to see like 20 fields in a line. So just kind of keep that in mind as we do this demo.
I'll flip back and forth between Kavani. You guys would hopefully get a better idea. Like, since the font's so big, it's going to screen wrap pretty badly. So we're just going to go ahead and ingest. So actually, let me just.
So the -C flag there is disabling checksum. So if you have a NIC that's capturing from TCP dump that has checksum disabling or anything like that, your PCAP's going to mess up checksum. So that's what that -C flag is there. Yeah, -R, PCAP, and then yeah.
Okay.
Space. There you go.
All right. So that generated all those log files based on the ingesting of that PCAP. So we'll just go ahead and so you guys. So again, kind of hard to read because of the screen wrap. So let me actually just flip over here. I've got Kibana up and running. It's a little bit easier to read. So we'll cover Kibana a little bit in the talk, but we want to focus on Bro. But here on the left here, you can see an example of some of the fields that it's pulling out. Let me blow that up. So this is that's HTTP log here. So we have host, originator, IP, message, method, refer. So a lot of different tags, user agent that we're pulling across there. Let me go ahead. I'm just going to cut that. Instead of typing. Okay, so this PCAP is a comes from a malware analysis. I can't remember the name of the
Malware traffic analysis.
Malware traffic analysis.
.net.
.net. So there's, which are a lot of good PCAP examples if you want to play with any actual malware traffic. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the DNS information that Bros pulled out of that, and I'm just using a simple cutting out the query column and then just sorting it. So and then we're going to go ahead and chop off part of that so we can get a little bit more information. So does anyone, do these domains look familiar to anyone?
Tom Paul owns all of them.
Yeah, probably. Who is Tom? All right, so what I've done is just done a quick character count of all of the top level domains. So if you've done a whole lot of malware analysis, this is actually a Zeus variant, so that uses 34 to 40 3-character dynamically generated domains. So just a quick example of how you can quickly parse a PCAP, pull out information, use tools to manipulate that and get answers really quickly. So I mean, you can do that in Wireshark, but it's going to take you a lot longer because we're actually just pulling it into text format. The sky's the limit for how you can manipulate that and easily count and interact with that data. All right, so. So here I've just taken an HTTP log again from a PCAP that we pulled from malware analysis, and we've just rolled that through some text tools, and we've pulled out all the unique user agents in that PCAP. So again, just another example of some ways that you can quickly manipulate a large amount of data and get to the source of the problem or what you're looking for. Not very. All right, so not my favorite one, if it works. Can't remember if I left file extraction turned off. Yeah, so. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Let's see. Extract file. Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and ingest this PCAP. I'm going to run a bro script that together against that. So I'm going to show you that bro script in a second. So we've got that PCAP.
When you specify the bro scripts at the command line like that, it'll actually run in addition to a default bro script called local.bro. And so that's adding to it. It's not necessarily saying this is the only one I want to run.
Yeah.
It's adding to it.
Yeah, so we could copy that script into the bro. There's multiple folders that you can layer that into and make this a default action. So we're just running this manually right now. So here's an example of that bro script of what we've written to actually pull the files out of the PCAPs. You can see here this is pretty simple. And again, bro is event based, so there's a full API of all of these different events that you can walk through and manipulate. So.
I did notice on the very recently, Seth Hall, who's one of the main maintainers of Bro, actually released a full into the master branch of Bro an SMB parser as well. Mm-hmm. And so file extraction for SMB traffic is now introduced into Bro, which is a huge win.
Yeah. So let's see here. I think it's All right, so here's an example of the file output that you can see. So a little bit difficult to see here, but there's a file hash that's generated. We can see the source and destination, or the originator and destination of that hash, and then the file that was extracted. So we can go ahead and look at that file real quick. So some kind of a zip archive. So actually, did I have?
Bless.
No, it was less.
Unzip.
Okay, what's that?
You just run unzip on it.
Yeah, well, so imagine in your minds that I have a hex header here. We would open it up and actually look at the file header.
XXD? Yeah.
There you go.
What's that?
XXD.
Did I put? Yeah, I did. Okay, next. Oh, and then we need that.
Awesome jar. Yeah.
This is killing me. So you see here in the file header there that it references some class. So that might give some people an idea of what's inside that file or what's in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and cheat. It's actually a Java file. So just you can see really quickly how you can probably build out a workflow for that. So we're just doing a simple file extraction. We can have it extract that file, run an antivirus against it, see the file type. So a lot of these capabilities are available in commercial firewalls. If you run SourceFire, it can do a lot of these things, but it can't do it for free. So they love their products. A lot of commercial companies love their products. So this is something you can stand up in your environment for little to no cost, manpower, and do file extraction, and then manipulate that however you want.
How do you handle like file and log rotation in Bro? Is it real easy? Real
Yeah,
hard,
it's not
or-
bad. So it's actually built into Bro. So like here we're just running ad hoc queries, if you will, and ingesting PCAPs. But when you run Bro as a service or as a cluster, it has a configuration to do file rotation. So it'll actually build out a structure for you that has. So it builds
I'm thinking like the file extraction can get ridiculous. Right?
Yeah, yep. So all it does is like it rotates it out, and by day or whatever you specify. So if you say 7-day rotation, then it's going to have one folder per week, and then within that, it's just these same folders, right?
Yeah.
So dealing with the retention of that or compressing all of the files in there to deal with your file storage is left to the user.
Yeah, so here's an example so we can break out of how it automatically will handle the logs. So
More question?
So this splits it out into traffic types, it seems, like DNS,
Yep.
Well, is there an easy way to see the story? Like maybe you can see all of those at the same
Oh,
time?
we totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
we did.
totally. So, can you, we'll show you that actually. So what happens is there's a unique identifier that will track a session, effectively, a connection. So there's a unique ID that will show up in all of the logs. So a really good example is the con log. So it creates a connection based on unique ID based on that connection. And then when you go to the HTTP log, it says this was the connection ID, it's a UID. This was the UID that generated this HTTP message. And then within that HTTP stream, let's say that you transfer a file, you download an executable, right? Well, now that goes to the file log. And the HTTP log will have a file ID that then you can reference in the files.log. And then that file ID and files.log and now HTTP will actually be written into the file name of the file that gets extracted. So very quickly you can say, when I was doing it, I just use grep. So it's like grep, the connection ID, pipe, the file ID, and now I've got everything I need. And then a real quick way to because I never cared about what the file name was on disk. And so if I needed to read a file, I just less star and then that file ID. There's only ever going to be one of them. So that's a really quick way to get into viewing those files. Yeah, the unique ID is really powerful. I'm glad that you mentioned that because we totally buzzed right over it. That unique ID is incredibly powerful.
Alright, so that's the CI demos. Let's see.
All right, critical stack. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So
Is anyone familiar with critical stack at all? Aaron? Sweet. So this is awesome.
Load it up here. So Critical Stack is made by what's his name?
Yeah, so it's Dustin Weber,
There we
who
go.
some people might be familiar with Snorby and Threat Stack, I think is the company name. So he originally came out with that, and now he and Liam Randall, who's been he'll call himself a brovangelist. have formed this company, Critical Stack, which recently got bought by Capital One Investments. So it's very interesting. And so what they've done is really automated. There's one portion of Bro that we didn't really talk about, which is called the Intel framework. So the Intel framework allows you to automatically ingest IP addresses, domain names, file names, MD5 hashes, etc., and then look for those over the traffic. And so when that occurs, you can fire off a notice which will say, hey, this observable event was observed. Go, and that's where you can tie in your actions and all of that. And so what Critical Stack here has done is taken a collection of threat intelligence vendors and allowed you to pick and choose which ones you want, coalesce that into a single Bro Intel file, and then automatically shove it down to your Bro sensor. So it's incredibly powerful.
So you can sign up for a free account on Critical Stack. They group things into collections, and then each collection you can have a set of sensors. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new sensor. And I'm going to go ahead and go to feeds. So cooperate. So this is an example. So these are all the feeds that they have on their Threat Intel marketplace. So again, and these all plug directly into Bro. So we're just going to go ahead and
To add them to a collection.
should be.
You can go to the collections tab.
Oh, there we go.
And then you can modify. So the way it is feeds are added to a collection, and a sensor is bound to a collection. And then that sensor, through an API that they have, it's actually a binary that they'll put on your box, will go down and pull that collection. So once you have your collection set up, then you can
Yeah, we should be able to add.
add
There we
feeds.
go. Later on. Okay, so yeah, so you can see here an example of some of the feeds. So malware domains, one of the Talos Angler feeds is on here. Tor exit nodes. So just a really quick way to get a lot of threat intel into your environment. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a couple of these real quick. Bit of cooperate. There we go.
So once you have an account, like all their different feeds are available to you.
Yeah, so all
Yeah.
of these are open source feeds.
Yeah, these
right?
are
So-
they do vet the feeds before they add it. You can't just go in and create a feed. You have to actually contact them, and they vet it, and then they add it in their marketplace. So, although I don't know if they go back and check them. So, but
There's
yeah.
like a little rating system too, and like comments you can provide back to the feed author.
So just went ahead and subscribed all those feeds. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the API key there. So there's a client available for Debian-based distributions and Red Hat Sent.
What? Yeah. No, I'm just looking at your pipe pseudo bash.
Oh yeah,
No,
you just
that's the best way to
micro
install
output
security
right into
tools.
bash. Yeah.
Really? Tell me you don't have to do that.
No.
I don't have to, but we're apply
You can sudo
Write it
switch
down.
user root and do it.
Yeah, if you don't like it.
Seems highly suspicious.
A lot of how-to guides do that now.
I know they.
It's crazy. I know. Well, you know, there's no problem with running third-party code. That's right.
It's never fucking-
So I've gone ahead and I've already pre-installed the client on here, and went ahead and loaded my API key against it. So it synced up all of those feeds and downloaded them into the Bro Intel. So now, if we were to run Bro, and I don't have an example of this, unfortunately, or didn't have the time to put them together, we were to run Bro against something that would pop a hit on one of those Intel feeds, say like a Tor exit node, you would actually get an intel.log that you could parse and manipulate or upload, pull out. So, alright, do you want to do your virus total?
Yeah, I'll do that. All right. I remember how to do all this stuff. All right, sweet. So Nate talked very briefly on the ability to start to integrate with third-party tools. And so there was actually so all of the scripts that I'm going to show you were originally authored by Seth Hall, who works at Bro. He's actually on the team from like the National Science Foundation that does support Bro, like officially the way that they get funded. So he had a Bro script that does virus total. And so it's actually made up of two files that do most of the work, and then you source in your API key for virus total. So public API key only has, you're allowed 4 queries per minute, right? So we're going to be cut off here after 4 queries. But with your private API key, you can bang up against this, until your API limit. So what it will do is it will, any of the files that are extracted or that it sees going across, it doesn't even have to extract them. Any of them that they see going across the wire, they'll generate an MD5 and then go search for that out on Bro, or I'm sorry, out on Virus Total. So if I just go to this PCAP here, it will delete all of the log files. Yeah. Why is he asking that one, right?
\R.
Okay, sweet. So I'll do one caveat before I read these PCAPs as well, which is these are actual malicious attachments. Like this is actual email coming into principal's environment. All of it's malicious crap, so I really don't care, but like the victims have not been anonymized. So just kind of keep that in mind, I guess, as we live stream. Yeah, can we just stop the live stream for a second, actually? I'm sorry. I hate to do it, but see you guys. Not gonna do it. Not worth that at all. Love you guys, but I'm not sorry.
Similar to where is this?
Yeah, right. Oh, he's using smarts. C #R. I don't even know what it needs to learn anymore. I think it's. So one of these scripts actually ends up loading the other one, so I just want to make sure that we get it before we. Okay, cool.
Something.
That looks a little bit better. Do you have internet connectivity here? Yeah. This box does, right? Okay, cool. So ignore the errors. So it's just like it read in the PCAP. So if we come look at this SMTP log, we can see. So this is that unique connection ID that I was telling you about earlier. So this is going to be in all the files, and I'll just grep for this, and you'll find this connection ID in the virus total logs as well, assuming I did that. So it parsed out the email, so it's coming from copier@principal.com, going to that person, and the subject is in there. Yeah, right there, scanned image from copier, message ID, all of that good stuff. So here you can see the file IDs right there. So these are those file IDs. So with that, so we know that it read this as an SMTP message, so we'll look at the virus total log. So in here, you see that file ID was parsed, so there's that file ID. So we'll just grab for the file ID, my apologies. Why can't I right click and have it auto-base? So in there you can see it's in the SMTP log. It's actually in the virus total log, of course, and then it's additionally should be in the files.log, notice.log, so files.log. So that is consistent. And so like within the files, here's that connection ID, right? So that's where I just pipe them into a grep statement with ORs. So if we look at the notice log, we can see it's actually taking that virus total log and kind of condensed it. So this is where I was talking about, this is what you would tie in to take an action, because it's a consolidation of multiple events. So we can see the type of the file, all that connection information in that notice log, what the subject was, it's limited it to 12 or 18 characters, whatever. Virus total matched out of on 36 AV engines. And then the link to the virus total. So you can actually set the threshold there as well. Right now it's all done in that bro script. And bro scripts, ET hashing. So here you can see I've set, anytime that it has 10 or more, it's gonna fire that notice and the virus total framework. You can additionally set, keep down on your volume, you can set what types of applications to track it with. And it looks, it's not like libmagic or anything, it's actually Bro looking at the multiple ways to determine what the file type is. Libmagic being one of them, but it does a bunch of different ways as well. So that's integration with virus total. Obviously, like everything else is still there, but you can see how easy it can be to run this now, now over SMB shares, HTTP, FTP, SMTP, and get virus total inspection. So it's pretty powerful. I don't know what a private API key costs, but I imagine it's more less expensive than saying running Palo Alto that has a very similar feature set. I love Palo Alto though, don't get me wrong.
So does it have like an action framework? Like once you see it and it matches so many criteria, like go do this thing?
Yeah, so you can build actions on top of it. So the demo that exists that's out there is posting to Twitter, right? Not very useful, but it gives you the concept of being able to take a reactionary action.
I would
Top of that.
subscribe to the Twitter feed that listed all the malware that principal gets.
I'll have to talk to my attorneys. So what was next for my demo? Okay, let me look at the slides and then Simple service SSL service. Okay, so we can turn on the stream again.
What if I said it never went off?
You guys
And
hired
then
It was
stop
just your
and I'm
pretty
gonna go
face.
delete it. Demo. Did we do? Oh yeah, we can do demo for tour. Yeah, we don't. I don't know if that's next on my list, but it's pretty cool. So are we back? Good. Hey guys, welcome back. You didn't miss anything, I promise. Let me make sure I scroll a couple times. Okay, so next, so everyone, like Tor detection. Tor detection is pretty hard, right? You use IP lists is what you'll generally get. Download it from someone, use it, get it from Tor, whatever. It's an IP list, so IPs change. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. It's not very reliable. Sometimes, you'll get exit nodes, relay nodes. There's all sorts of nodes in between. So detecting the use of Tor on your environment is somewhat difficult to have a high fidelity alert. So I found, again, another Bro script that was generated by Seth Hall to detect Tor. And so what it actually looks at is interesting certificates that are passed over the wire. So what they observed in their analysis of Tor is that I'm going to forget what this is. The issuer has a really weird name. It's not like a company's name. In fact, they end up looking more like websites. They're like www something as an issuer for a certificate. So it's very interesting. So what they actually do is set up the analysis of if you have 3 unusual looking Tor-based certificates in 5 minutes, then they're going to fire an alert. Again, this PCAP was actually taken by malware-traffic-analysis.net. Guy, Brad Duncan runs that. If you guys haven't looked at it, go check out this website. It's a huge resource. Guy posts PCAPs of real life attacks occurring. He's also a SANS daily incident handler. So he'll cross-post stuff. He'll use SANS to be able to get his information and then put it out there. He does a great job of analysis of it, screenshots, what post-infection looks like, the infection compromise chain, gives you PCAPs, gives you executables that he's already ripped out. It's a phenomenal resource. I can't tout that enough. Log. So we'll just read this PCAP. Not Bro. See. I about did the same thing you did. Okay. So this particular malware from 2014, it was one that I found on this website that used Tor. Keep in mind that this isn't detecting relay-to-relay traffic. The concept here is to detect users or malware in your environment reaching out to Tor. So, if we look at the con log, there's not going to be too much interesting in here aside from, IP traffic. So there's nothing, from the session right away at the NetFlow level that's going to identify this as Tor aside from if you know what the IP addresses are. But if we look at the notice framework, you'll see here, detect Tor found is the particular observable that was found. This source IP address was using Tor by connecting the servers with at least 10 unique weird certs, right? So here's some of those sample certs. So it's looking at, I'm pretty sure it just looks at the issuer. I could be wrong, so please don't hold me accountable for that. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So it gives you a sample, it gives you the time frame, gives you the source IP. I just thought it was a really interesting way that you can make use out of some of the inspection technologies that Bro has, right? Being able to interpret what an SSL cert should look like versus what it does. And so again, so you can do the same stuff with SSL cert, not even doing that Tor detection. That was kind of built on top of their SSL parsing ability. And so you can use the SSL log by itself to do top in and bottom in, looking for snake oil as a certificate, localhost as a certificate, going over the wire, and find all sorts of evil that way. In fact, I think most of these, I don't know if it was this PCAP or not, but a lot of them would have localhost as it. I don't know. It wasn't this one because it's a tool.
Can you tie in any of the private known SSL certificate databases and decrypt the traffic on the fly too?
So what I'll say is Bro doesn't natively support that.
Oh.
Much like any other tool that doesn't do SSL decryption, they say feed us SSL decrypted traffic and we'll deal with it, just like we would anything else. But there's no process within Bro that says give us your private key and.
Well, I'm not just thinking of that. Well, there's a huge there's a GitHub repo of known private SSL keys that are put on router firmware and stuff like that. If you can have it detect.
Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, I want to look at the Intel framework because I'm pretty sure the Intel framework can actually take an SSL fingerprint.
Oh, cool.
And so with that, then you can use the Intel framework to look for that fingerprint. I'm like 98% confident that that's what it does. Okay, so what else do we have here? So one of the concepts that we had, like we just wanted to spitfire examples and demos to you guys instead of getting into what it looks like. DNS tunnel, ports for Pro. Okay, so this one's not bad. And then after this, we'll get into Elasticsearch. Totally dead after DEF CON. So, okay, so let me start with the bro script first. So this bro script, I actually modified 2 of them from Seth Hall again. So there's one that will look for, so let's just look at Linux. Vinny, who's ever heard of that? So one of the things that bro can do is actually fire an event when it can't dissect a protocol that it should have been able to detect. So the way that this rule works is we try to detect, this is totally backwards. Ignore those comments, Brandon. So what it tries to detect is where the analyzer is HTTP over port 80, and we had a protocol violation. So this is going to detect something that didn't do HTTP over port 80. I don't know if this is the so the other one that I have. So like SSH over port 80. The other one that I have is kind of the exact opposite. So that looks exactly the same. No, it's still HTTP in port 80. Okay, hold on, watch this. Yeah, so I changed the node and the comment. I didn't change. That's why it didn't work at ISSA, man. Huh. Okay, so man, running on low steam. All right, so I'm pretty sure.
Like SecKC.
Yeah, SecKC guys, man, they just totally mess with us way too much. So I'm gonna try to. We'll see which one this fires. So if we look at the comm log, we'll figure out what this is right away. So 0. So I'm looking for port 80. So here we see that port 80 is in use, and we see a service, and you'll take the tabs and take my word for it, of SSH. So we see in the comm log SSH over port 80. So it'd be really easy to do this analysis just in the comm log, right? But we can take it one step further and generate a notice on it that didn't fire. Oh, that's because I didn't tell it what to do. Demo gods. Well, they're the same script, so it doesn't really matter which one I run anymore. And apparently I need to run the other one. Yeah, that one didn't air out. Sweet. So now if we look at the notice log that didn't exist there before. So in this particular case, we saw SSH over port 80. So this would fire, it would actually fire and say, you know, that this person, this host, 192.168.206.1, didn't speak HTTP correctly over port 80. So my bad for a bad demo. I'll fix that stuff later, although I'll never give this talk again. So, okay, who here is familiar with Elasticsearch and the Elastic Stack, right? So we got Kibana, Logstash, and Elasticsearch. Yeah, like way more than Elastic, so that's good. Okay, so for those that don't know, okay, let me ask this question. Who's familiar with Splunk? All right, that's what I thought. All right, so think of open source Splunk, and you've got Elastic Stack, okay? So this is what, so Nate was showing this very briefly before. So this is the UI. Now I'm gonna caveat this with, this took me about 3 hours to get set up the morning that we presented this over at ISSA. So this isn't perfect, but it's functional for this demo, okay? There's some fields that are analyzed that don't need to be analyzed, vice versa. And so there's some weird artifacts, but I just wanted to show you kind of, you know, if you know, I like grep and awk and tab separated files, that's great. But man, it's not very pretty, and you can't do a lot with it, you know, natively, and not everyone knows the Linux command line. So instead, let's get this parsed into a database that we can start building out on and doing data enrichment on. So the first thing that we had to do to get this to work, we didn't have to do it, but I chose to do it just because I'm lazy, was to get these logs into a JSON format. And so to do that, we broke the rules a little bit. If Seth Hall was here, he'd probably chew me out. Site. Actually, we did put in site. So there's a log line here. So like we talked about the modularity of Bro, right? So like to get JSON logs, boom. Uncomment that file, run Bro, and now I've got JSON logs instead of tab separated. It's already provided by Bro, it's great. So once you do that, then you can start reading PCAPs. And then you can do things with our syslog slash our syslog. There it is.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a bunch of comments about lines. I clearly didn't do it this way. So
there's a couple different ways to ingest data into Elasticstack. And again, we try to steer away too much about turning this into Elasticstack talk because that is deserving of its own talk. So a couple different methods. You can have it actively parse logs, or you can send data to it through Netcat. A lot of different ways to ingest it. So over the network, plain text. So
that's how I did it.
There we go.
Okay, sweet. So what I actually told, so the way that Elk, or now it's called Elasticstack, is broken out is Logstash. It does your log ingestion. So it supports TCP, it supports native files, it supports all the different ways that you can think of to ingest it. And so Logstash sends it to Elasticsearch. And so that puts it into a JSON document. Elasticsearch is a NoSQL database. Hey Philip, this is my favorite Elasticsearch person I know. So Logstash puts it into Elasticsearch, and then Kibana queries Elasticsearch to get you access to the data. So you can do some pretty cool stuff with Elasticsearch, like data enrichment. And so before, nowhere in any of those Bro logs did you see any geolocation information, but this is something that's very useful. So what we'll do is we'll actually tell Logstash, before you insert this into Elasticsearch, go data enrich this. And this is a pretty simple use case of doing geolocation IP, but you can do things like go make another query. For instance, if I cared about, is this IP address a customer, I could go make an external call against my more recent user customer logins and compare them to that IP, right? I can take a field and pivot on that and then shove that data back in here. So in that case, yeah, this is a customer, take their username and shove it into this event. And so now you've got a Bro event correlated with a user ID from a disparate system. So it's very powerful what you can do here. So we do that. Elasticsearch doesn't like periods and field names. So this took me a while to figure out why it was puking all over the place. And so we actually renamed some fields here as well. And so the original Bro output is ID dot original host. And so we renamed those fields. So you can do all sorts of manipulation there with Logstash before you put the data in. Okay, enough about Logstash. So here you can see all that pretty data. And you can see the unique IDs in there. Actually, that's the ID from Elasticsearch. But you can see the, oh man. Sweet, yeah, it's parsed out. So you can see that UID. So within Elasticsearch, then you can query this. And it's going to add it to my query. And I'm only looking in HTTP logs, which is fine. But I also want to look across any of the indexes that I have. We've gone over the last year, so we don't have much data in here, but it's a NoSQL Lucene backend that's typically really fast if I wasn't running on Nate's VPS. Man, I think I have more luck than they drink. I think that's the problem. I don't know. This is more recently in the database. Okay, well screw me.
So we tried to save this VM. It was working last time, but it's been about a month, so obviously some technical difficulties. So
I'll show them some visualization stuff if I can get it to work. A star. It must be one of these indexes. Just must be hosed.
it was pulling up the.
It's pulling up the HTTP. So if all else fails, I'll do that.
Is this? I bet you the back end died.
You think Elasticsearch died?
It's not pulling up anything. Please hold it.
only gave it 256 meg of memory. Yeah. Yeah, it only runs one. That's long stretch.
That's the start size. Max is a gig.
1 gig max. Okay. Well, man, I don't know. What's the stuff last year?
Drop it down to
30 days. It's not gonna matter because the indexes aren't there for previous days.
Yeah,
All right, man. I don't know.
So,
Man, I feel
Never
bad
gonna
saying
sing
it
them
was
twice.
just. I know, right? Like, or started up before today. Man, I really wanted to show the data visualization stuff that you can do on this. Okay, so just imagine pie chart and like pow bang whiz US graphs, all right? It'll just blow your mind. It's amazing how awesome it is.
The first demo was way better.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy that did the Moloch demo, man, he knew what the fuck he was doing. That wasn't supposed to sound so horrible.
I did get my Elasticsearch database more than 200 visitors.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I don't know, man. I should have Philip plug this. He'd probably have it going in about 10 seconds. But, so yeah, Elasticsearch. It's really powerful. It makes an easy and convenient way to ingest the data and have a pretty GUI around it. Did we miss anything? Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, so we'll move on from the demo because the guys are clearly upset.
and so commercial support. So there's a couple different companies that you can bring in-house to either implement this or support it. And then there's that Licata, which is that weird.
Yeah.
So it's a commercial company that's developed some weird combination of Bro and Suricata. So some ungodly meld, and then Broala, which is just really fun to say. So more resources. So bro.org, there's a lot of script examples on there. It's try.bro.org. They give you a basically access to a bro scripting engine, and you can write scripts and run it against test PCAPs. You can even upload your own PCAPs, which I want to try writing actions and see what they have in the back end. But there's also a con related to bro yearly, and then I did a lot of digging around when we initially built this VM. So their documentation is kind of scattered, and out of date. So, but if you dig around, it is rare. It is there. API references are on the site. So again, just a quick comment is I would go to their GitHub and look there first before we actually go to Bro if you want to look at the latest changes. So, because we were trying to do some file extraction and virus level stuff, and they had removed deprecated features and moved them into different modules. So, which was still documented on their site. So
The other thing I'd say about searching their site is use like the Google dork for like site.bro.com and then just search for what you want in there. I found a lot of stuff doing that as opposed to trying to dig around on their website.
There's a ton of other resources too. A lot of the scripts that we have in there we pulled from other people's GitHubs that had already implemented Bro, so you don't have to start from the ground up writing these. You can pull them in and just tweak them to do what you need. So any questions that aren't related to anything about help?
That's how they're going to fill. The one other, so we had at the very beginning, we had like phishing scripts, and I didn't demo it just because it's kind of a hassle to set up, but one of the things that you can do, so these two resources are really good. So they'll actually, one of them, and I don't know which one's which, but one of them will actually do, so you give it domains, and it will do Levenstein distance calculation of those domains in SMTP traffic. Some of them will not only look at like who it's from, but also URLs inside of that message. So if you wanted to find, someone that's, in our case, principal, and instead they're doing princiqual, Levenstein distance calculation will easily find that fire off an event. So there's a lot of powerful things that you can do with it, and it's very flexible in what you can do with it. So if there's something that the mailing list is really active, IRC is actually pretty active. Assuming that you can grab someone's time on it. But there's a huge community around it. It's amazing. If you're not running it, take an hour, set it up on a VM, set it up on a lab, whatever, and just play around. I'll be amazed if you don't find something amazing in the first few hours. A good example at work, we found that we were only receiving, we had a lot of missing traffic, and so it was showing up in the weird log. It was like three-way handshake not found, or data before handshake established. And what we actually found was that one of our links to our internet was not tapped. And so we were able to get that rectified very quickly. And then you can start doing alerts within like Elasticsearch, do that top in, bottom in, or even like new events that are occurring, right? If you've never seen that weird log before where it says, data before three-way handshake, then you can be able to alert on that and know that something's changed in your environment.
Okay, so I just want to talk real quick about that weird log. I don't think we mentioned it earlier. So Bro looks at the traffic, and if it detects anything that's not necessarily bad, right, but you have like a missing TCP handshake or something's happening out of order, it automatically logs all of that. So that's what the weird log is. So it's just stuff that it says it's not necessarily a bad thing. We're not going to knock it out as that, but so in this case, there was an unmatched DNS query. So query went out and then never came back.
So do you typically run one Bro server and then you feed the sensor data in?
Yeah.
Or do you run multiple Bro servers and then how do you like
Can you go back
coordinate
to that cluster slide?
I apologize.
Yeah, no, you totally missed the beginning part of it where I explained all this, but it's okay. All three of your questions were addressed previously. So the way that it clusters is you can have multiple servers running multiple instances, or a single server running multiple instances, or very ad hoc like we're doing. So that front end is a packet distribution system like Gigamon or Arista, or if you're running multiple servers, or you can do, if you're running a single server with multiple instances of Bro, you can use IRQ load balancing on the NIC, or something like PFRing or NetMap to do that distribution across multiple instances of Bro. And then, so those are workers, right? So you set up multiple workers, and the workers coalesce all of their logs back to a master. A manager, I'm sorry, that's what they call it. So that manager has all of those logs. The proxy there that's in that environment manages state in between individual workers. So when a new connection is observed by one worker, those other workers can gain that knowledge as well. So it scales out incredibly well. There's a paper written at the academic level about using Bro to do 100 gigabit per second. So it's incredibly flexible. Any other questions? Jim? Stretching. Yeah. It's hot here, isn't it, man? I'm like sweating.
I haven't heard a single like bro pun or bro joke all
Wait,
night.
I came up with one of the broceps.
Yeah.
You know, like
concept.
concepts,
Oh,
bro.
okay.
Or it could be like biceps, you know? Because we're bros. I got nothing, man. That was it. I said brovangelist too.
I guess you did.
I suppose we can call each other brovangelist now.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, do you want to do a high five and then close it out with a cool bro? Yeah! All right.
So we'll go ahead. I'll make sure those slides get posted in Slack. We're working on getting the resources available for that, and then the recording minus probably 5 or 6 seconds.
Yeah, we had some recording issues. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sweet. So Slack, for those that aren't aware, we have it's relatively active Slack channel for the number of people that we have in it. So go sign up is on our website, secdsm.org. Down at the very bottom, you'll see like a contact us and a Slack sign up form. It just automatically emails you. So fill out that, and then I had 2 other things. So we're gonna after a short break, I'm gonna introduce Antoinette, who's gonna talk a little bit about something that she's got going up. That's really exciting, and then we'll have a conversation about our trip down to SecDSMK. Did I do that right, Ryan? And our recap of DEF CON, where we'll talk about Capture the Flag. We actually have, Capture the Packet contest. We've got 2 teams here that were represented this year in the finals, so that's amazing. And then we'll adjourn. So I'll let Antoinette speak now. Thanks,
for
guys.
those of you who don't know, I founded a nonprofit to teach adults about different techie things. So we have like a programming course coming up in the summer for teachers to learn, and I'm working on a magic mirror like workshop for people. Anyway, I'm giving a talk in 2 weeks on Monday, August 22nd at noon at Blue Compass about teaching technical things to non-technical people. So if you want to check it out, like see me for more information.
Thanks, Antoinette. We'll take a break. I don't know what's left over there, but I know Ben said that he didn't want to take any of it home, so please eat up. And then we'll give about 5-10 minutes and we'll get started again.